In the cold, dry period of the Younger Dryas, the layers are cloudy and so thin they seem to merge into each other. But then there's a sudden transition to clearer, thicker layers. These thicker bands show there was much heavier snowfall, and when they analysed the chemistry of the ice, it revealed the temperature had jumped by 5 degrees. So how quick is that transition?
Well, if you look at it, basically 1 year.
No.
Yes, there's enough noise in here that one can argue maybe it's 1 to 3 years, but it's not 1 to 5 years, and it's certainly not 1 to 10 years. It's right around 1 year.
So we go from essentially an ice age in the Younger Dryas to the warm period immediately afterwards, within a year.
In terms of snowfall, yes. Now, it takes a little longer for the climate system to warm up.
The Earth's climate was meant to take thousands of years to change, but the ice core showed that the climate could switch from an ice age to warm conditions in less than a human lifetime. And as they looked further back in time, there was more to come. So is this the only abrupt change you'll find?
No. This ice core contains a couple of dozen abrupt climate changes that have warmings that are as fast and environmental changes that are as drastic as the one you see here.
So are these rapid shifts characteristic of the climate system?
It's clearly not an artifact of the system. It's clearly not just a once or twice kind of thing that maybe was a meteorite or something like that, or a volcano. This is an inherent, intrinsic part of the climate system.
The discovery of rapid climate change was a scientific revolution. It meant that the climate was capable of sudden jumps in a timescale that modern civilization has never had to deal with. And do you get genuinely scared about what that possibly means for us if we encounter it in the future?
Yes. I don't think anybody could not get scared. If you understood just how fast that was and how big this change was, just how fundamental it was, if something like that happened to us, and it's important to recognize we've not seen anything like it. If something like that happened to us today, we would probably not be able to grow enough food. We would not have enough fresh water. It would challenge even the most industrialized society to adapt. And that is scary.
The most frightening thing is that no one knows what causes the climate to change so quickly. So scientists began to worry that the changes already underway as a result of global warming could accelerate and turn out to be just as fast. It's impossible not to look at that core and see that change from an ice age into a warm world over the course of a season or two, and realise that we could see climate change not in some distant future, but in our lifetime. And that's made the debate much, much more urgent. Instead of the slow, steady rise in temperatures forecast by the climate models, we could face a catastrophic warming in just a few years. And there are signs some changes are already happening faster than predicted. So far, it's in the Arctic that global warming has caused the most dramatic changes. Above all, to the sea ice. Every winter, as temperatures drop, the sea ice spreads, stretching from the North Pole down to Greenland and Canada. In the summer, it melts back. As the Earth warms, the models say that over the next century, the area covered by sea ice will shrink gradually. But the ice is changing well ahead of schedule. Across most of the Arctic, the spring melt has been getting earlier since the 1980s. And it's not just that the melt is starting earlier. Scientists now know that the sea ice has been getting steadily thinner for the last 30 years as well. Over the last 30 years, satellites measuring the extent of summer sea ice have recorded its decline. By 2005, the sea ice had shrunk by almost 20%. And by 2007, it hit a new record low when an area about 10 times the size of Britain disappeared. Scientists have put all these changes together, the earlier melt, thinner ice, and a reduction in the extent of sea ice, and some now fear that within a little over a decade, sea ice could vanish in summer altogether. Here is a city built in the middle of a desert, but full of water. A triumph of technology. Coming to Vegas, you can't help but be seduced by the feeling that our technological brilliance will enable us to cope with the effects of global warming. Vegas owes its existence to one of the greatest feats of engineering in the world. The Hoover Dam. Built in the 1930s, the Hoover Dam tamed the mighty Colorado River.
Just as the passenger plane symbolizes man's conquest of the air, so does Boulder Dam symbolize man's determination to harness nature through this eighth wonder of the world, America's monument to progress.
At the time, it was the world's largest concrete structure, creating a lake 100 miles long. Lake Mead. Proof of its success is easy to see. This is the 8th year of a major drought. The level of the water has fallen, which you can see thanks to the bathtub ring of pale rock around the lake, but the water's still flowing. The possibility that technology could prove inadequate here, in one of the most sophisticated nations on Earth, seems unimaginable. But now the Hoover Dam faces a new challenge, one over and above the natural variability that it's coped with so well: man-made climate change. Some scientists believe that the current 8-year drought is just the beginning, that global warming and a rising population mean water will become ever scarcer. The question is, will the lake be able to cope? I'm here to meet one man who's done a detailed study of what the future might hold for the people who live here, Dr. Tim Barnett. So what's the prognosis for the lake and the dam?
If nothing's done, if we continue business as usual, there's a 50-50 chance that the Lake Mead becomes ineffective in about 2021, the early 2020s. Even sooner, the power intakes for the hydroelectric power generation go dry, and that goes out of commission perhaps as little as 10 years from now. Again, with odds 50-50.
It's quite a frightening scenario.
I think the human beings in this part of the world don't understand what the word sustainability means. I mean, we could easily be right at the edge of civilization, a sustainable civilization in the Southwest.
That means not just Vegas is at risk. Many other cities built in the desert are under threat, from San Diego to Los Angeles. Predicting the future climate might be one of science's most complex challenges, but uncertainty over the detail isn't a reason for inaction, especially when there's a 50-50 chance that the water supply to 20 million people could fail. And that's even without a sudden acceleration in warming.
I think virtually everybody I know in the business that's had a look at real data and look at models is surprised that what the models say seems to be happening sooner than they project. It's really a nagging worry that there's something we've missed, or somehow we're underestimating the speed at which this thing's going to go down.
Phenomenal feat of engineering as the Hoover Dam is, exuberant and confident as life in this region is, what strikes me now is their fragility. Even the richest societies will struggle to insulate themselves against the effects of global warming, especially if that change is big and fast.